Here's a question for you. If everybody's lying to you, does it matter? You know, if the entire world's lying to you, if everybody you meet is lying to you, they're all consistent in their lie, and you're the only one that knows the truth, does that matter? You know, or should you just go with their lie? That's kind of the question at the root of today's video, because everywhere I looked, they've all told us the same thing. Now, I'm going to, draw it back a little bit and say it's not actually a lie, it's just misinformation. But there's something on every single site that I've looked at to do with these upcoming releases of the Nike Air VaporMax 220 Smoke Greys. And they've all made, let's give them the benefit of the doubt, they've all made the same mistake. By mistake, by accident, I'm assuming. Maybe they're not deliberately lying to us, but I'll get into that in today's video because it's kind of important. It's actually an important detail. If you're looking at shoes or if you're looking for sneakers and things like that online, it's important to actually question just a little bit the information you're getting to make sure that it is authentic and accurate. And we'll get into that today, and we'll also get into the details of this upcoming shoe. So with that being said, let's get into the Nike Air VaporMax 220 Smoke Grey. This is a Tokyo Butter 23 Sneaker channel. Tokyo Butter 23 Sneaker channel day. It's my Nichi Upsuno day, my Nichi Mitake Kudasai. And every single day from Tokyo, Japan, I bring you content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And today we're taking a look. It's the second 3 days of a Nike Air VaporMax 220. 2 days ago it was the Pure Platinum, then today it's the Smoke Greys. And these guys are dropping, I think, July 30th. Whereas the Pure Platinums is something like July the 25th or something along those lines. But I'm going to just jump straight into it and talk about this little bit of inaccuracy that I found out there in the world. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up for you here what I know they're telling us is the lateral side of this shoe. It's a nice looking shoe, very similar to the lateral side of the Pure Platinums that did drop recently, that I talked about recently. And then we'll switch it out and we'll look at the medial side. And the big thing that I was like, it's like, whoa, that's really interesting, because I made a big deal about the Pure Platinum's medial side, which looks like this, and it's just sort of I called it like a blank canvas. There's nothing on it, there's no swoosh in there, it's just a very solid piece of upper material, and I was kind of surprised at that, to be honest. I called it ugly. So then when these guys came out and I saw the pictures like this with the swoosh on the side, I was like, oh, they fixed that pretty quickly. That seems unusual, and that's why I looked in detail at it. We'll go back to the lateral and you'll see the lateral side there, and then we'll come back to the medial and you see the medial side there. Turns out that both of these pictures are actually medial sides. They look slightly different. There's some differences in the fly knit and the colouring and a little bit of difference in the placement, but they're actually both the medial side of the shoe. And this is the thing you have to be careful of. And to be honest, actually the Adidas line do it more often than anyone else with their Yeezys, and they often show you the medial and the lateral, but actually they're both lateral sides. So in the case of these guys, it appears like they're showing us the medial and the lateral side, but it's just the medial side. The reason I know that is because of this. Now, here's the medial side, and what we'll do is we'll zoom in down onto the heel counter on there, and you can see the heel counter on these guys, which is an important feature of them because they're stripped back a lot more than the Pure Platinums, and they don't match the toe roll. The toe roll on the Pure Platinums and the heel counter are very, very similar in design, whereas on these guys the toe roll is still the same as the toe roll was on the Pure Platinums, but on the Smoke Greys you can see it's been stripped back a whole lot more, which reveals a lot more of the recycling that have gone into these guys, and we'll talk about that recycling in a minute. But the thing that I want to focus is on that heel counter there. You can see no writing at all and no branding, which is okay. That's fine. That's how it should be. But on the lateral side, and here's the lateral side, what they're calling the lateral side shoe, and if we zoom in down on that heel counter again, hopefully I've been able to show you this accurately, you can see again on what they're calling the lateral side, there's no branding at all, but that is wrong. There should be branding on the lateral side of this shoe, and the reason I know that is because if I bring up the pair, and you can see the pair here, and they still do have the swoosh on both the medial and the lateral side. So before we zoom in anywhere, yes, unlike the Pure Platinums, these Smoke Greys do have a swoosh on both the medial and the lateral sides, but then if we zoom in on that sort of heel counter area there, you can see some branding that should be there. Now, it's hard to make out, and the closer I get to it, the more pixelated it'll get, but it doesn't matter what it says. What it matters is that there is some kind of writing or branding on the lateral side of these shoes. So if we go back to what they're calling their lateral side, you can see down in the heel counter there's no branding there. So in actual fact, what they've sold to us, what they're showing to us, what they're sharing with us is actually two medial sides and no lateral side, which is a bit disappointing. it happens. You know what I mean? It's a bit surprising because I looked at Kicks on Fire, I looked at Soul Supplier, I looked at Hype Beast, I looked at Sneaker News. Was that the 4 places I looked? And all of them had the 2 medial sides, and none of them had the lateral side there. So maybe they all get their information from the same source, or hey, there goes my iPad. Maybe they're watching me, and that's their warning to me. Oi, butter! Stop telling the secrets of the sneaker community to the world. Yeah, so I looked at 4 sites, and they all had 2 medials and no lateral in their like promotional materials and their pictures and stuff like that. And like I say, it was because it had a swoosh on the medial side that I was like, that's unusual. That's different, I should say, from the pure platinum. So that's why I looked really closely at them, and finally I could work out what the problem was that that branding that should be there towards the back of the lateral side isn't on their pictures of their lateral side, so we know that they've made a little mistake. But I think that just happens. I don't think, to be honest, it's that bad a thing. I don't think they're deliberately misleading us. I think it's just basically it's lazy, you know, or somebody's not really putting enough effort in to make sure that they've got the right size of the shoe. So if anybody can get this into the hands of any of those companies, like, you know, it's never going to happen, right? My tiny little sneaker channel, never going to change the world. What is it Steve Harvey says on Family Feuds? Is like, you know, it's not change the world, but it's shock. That's it, shock the world. This little channel ain't going to shock the world anytime soon or ever. But you know what? It would be great if somehow, you know, someone at Kicks on Fire or Soul Supplier or, you know, Hype Beast or Sneaker News actually like got a hold of this. It was like, you know what? That's good observation. Thank you, Tokyo Butter 23. We will do better in the future and make sure that we don't show you 2 medials or 2 laterals. But word to the wise, people watching this, just be aware that sometimes it's not quite what you think it is. And again, I don't think it's deliberate. I don't think they're trying to, you know, pull the wool over our eyes. In fact, they would be better to show us the real lateral side because it's got details on it that the medial side doesn't. So they're doing themselves a disservice. So I don't think it's deliberate, but still, you know, quality control and all that, especially in sneakers, right? We're into our quality control. So okay, so that's, you know, the bit about the mistakes or whatever with that medial lateral side. I was able to build in some of the features of the shoe, like the swooshes on both sides and the toe roll and the heel counter there. Speaking of the swoosh, though, let's get into the details of the shoe because there are a few more details in there that are worth looking at. Detail number 1 is, yes, the swoosh is there, but it's much less of a weave than the pure platinums. The pure platinums really sort of exposed the weave of the swoosh, just like the Space Hippies. So the Space Hippies, you can see how the swoosh and the uppers almost like equally balanced in terms of color of which is the upper weave and which is the swoosh weave. But then if we come back to today's smoke grays, you can see that the swoosh itself is very dominant and it really kind of overpowers the upper on there, and so you don't see the weave quite as much as you did on both the pure platinums and those Space Hippies. But the main feature for me of this shoe, and I don't like it, sorry, is all that red. And by all that red, what I'm talking about is at the top of the laces, at the top of the heel, and then down in the middle of the heel. And what we're talking about is a special lace system. They call it Fly Ease, which I'm kind of surprised at because Fly Ease to me is a different line in Nike where they can actually remove sections of the ankle and heel so that people can slide their foot in and then shut that section and give you the stability. It's to do with people who have disabilities and things like that who can't put their shoes on or wear shoes as comfortably as other people. So this Fly Ease lacing, I'm not so sure about that because I don't think it represents the same sort of, you know, like taking care of people who need help element. I think it's just a design thing. But the point of it is it's all wired. It's all wires instead of laces, which is an upgrade or a development of previous VaporMaxes. And the way it works is that on the front you've got the release and on the back you've got the lock. And both of those are in red. And then at the top of the heel you've got the pull tag, which is also in red, but it doesn't match much else on the shoe. The rest of the shoe is very grey with sort of like hidden colour in there, but then these pops of red up on the sort of top line of the shoe are a little bit kind of jarring to me. Talking about the on the tongue there where it's the release, which releases the laces so you can get your shoe out of these things. Just below that is a sort of lace lock that holds the whole lacing system together, and a unique element on these guys is it says USA right down the middle of them. Again, I've talked about this before, we should be pretty close to the Olympics now. What's the date today? It's this is Sunday and this is Tuesday's video. This is the 19th, and the Olympics would have started this coming Friday, but they postponed them for a year. So this sneaker drop in a week before the Olympics with USA right down the lacing unit on there must have been part of the plan to put those two together, but since the Olympics have been postponed, didn't really happen. And then the last thing I want to talk about in this shoe, I think, is the outsole. So here's the outsole of today's shoe, and you can see it's very transparent and very light. But then if we go back to the pure platinums, you'll see there's a lot more detailing on there. I've forgotten something to talk about. I'll get to it in a minute. So when we go back to today's shoe, you can see that it's a much lighter and much more transparent outsole. And this is what reminded me of that thing that I forgot to talk about, is to do with the materials used to make these shoes. Apparently, more than 50% by weight of the shoe is recycled, and it's to do with using offcuts of rubber and things like that to make the outsole. That's what reminded me of it, and that heel counter that I was talking about before, which is exposed, so you can see the recycling in there. But it's not just that, it's also in the fly net, where the threads of the fly net are recycled as well. So they're trying to go for more than 50% of this shoe being from recycled materials. But they're very careful to say by weight, because it won't be 50% of it by area, if you know what I mean. Like if the shoe's this big, but that little bit on the outsole is heavily recycled, that's very heavy, whereas the fly net on the top is not heavy at all. So it's not to do with like area of the shoe or volume or whatever you want to say, surface area. It's more to do with the weight of the shoe that's 50% or more recycled. Now I talked about that with the Space Hippies, and I talked about these Adidas guys right here, which is the where Adidas are going with 100% recyclable shoes. So it's kind of I won't get into that again, but I will point you back at that Space Hippie video, because then that's where I talked about what Adidas are doing as well in terms of recycling. And to be honest, Adidas are winning that race right now. So but things change, and we'll see what happens in the next 6 months. Time for me to sign off. Thank you guys for checking out the content. I hope you appreciate it. I hope I was able to tell you stuff about these smoke greys that you hadn't already known, maybe help you look at websites with a more inquisitive or cautious eye, so that you don't just trust what you're reading, because sometimes it isn't what it says it is. Now and I think I did say the drop date for these guys was July the 30th, and that's what I'm seeing it sitting at. So okay, enough from me. Time for me to sign off, go in and get this video done. Shot 2 videos today. So today's Sunday the 19th, and I shot the Monday video, and now I'm shooting the Tuesday video, so I'm a little bit ahead of the game. Fingers crossed I'll get them all ready and tucked away, so that I can start my week a little bit more smoothly than I normally do. For now though, time to get off and do some Sunday things. Thank you for checking out the content, but you know what? I do this every single day, and that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.